Have you ever been so inspired by a mysterious stimulant that motivates you and compels you to create? Maybe a particular fashion, aesthetic, or makeup style. Most of us have been influenced by idols and aesthetics, yet some, very few of us, have had the exhilarating and electrifying experience of capturing a muse. If you have had this type of ethereal encounter, I'm sure you find it memorable. But if you have yet to forego such a lively adventure, I hope that you can live vicariously through my own experience and enjoy this video as an introduction to the Muses. Goddesses that represent the arts and the sciences are personifications of knowledge. There's the muse of astronomy, astrology, mathematics, exact sciences. She is often depicted as a globe with a compass and is the youngest of all the 9 muses. There's the muse of sacred poetry, hymns, geometry, agriculture. She is often depicted with agricultural and musical instruments. There's the muse of the tragic theater, if you're into the arts or entertainment. There is the muse of comedic theater. She is often depicted laughing, wearing a theatrical mask of comedy. There is the muse of history. She had the power to immortalize people by making their deeds unforgettable. There's the muse of epic poetry and eloquence. There's the muse of song and Gaelic poetry. There is the muse of dance, choral, and she is also depicted with a lyre and a crown of flowers, which is a musical instrument. And finally, there is the muse of erotic, love, and poetry. Her name means lovely or desirable, and it's pronounced eros, or like erotic or eros, but it has like a T, so it's eredo. The muses are the source for all inspiration and the heart of all art. And there's different archetypes that we've seen throughout the media. I know a lot of you guys have seen the Hercules movie, but I always consider Destiny's Child sort of like an archetype of the muses. They all have their own personality and their own talents. So this archetype has been around for a while, and I've noticed lately that when it comes to like the red pill spaces and all this other stuff, a lot of people, well, men specifically, feel like divine feminine energy isn't as easy to find as it once was, and women aren't in their feminine. And a lot of women feel the same way about men. Like, men aren't being masculine, they're being too sassy, too girly, stuff like that. And I can't help but to find it not a coincidence. And when I think about divine feminine essence and divine feminine energy, and how it can't exist without a masculine container. And I've mentioned this YouTuber. Her name is Mina Fran. She has a YouTube channel. It is called The Universe Guru. And she has a term, and it's called a masculine container. So when I first heard the term, I didn't really quite understand it. And I think the more I use it, the more it makes sense to me even still. But essentially, it means that femininity can only exist with masculinity. You get what I'm saying? So if a woman is from the hood, or she's from a place where it's like a third world country and she's always in survival mode, there are ways to get by that, but for the most part, I could see it being hard for a young girl to access her femininity when she does not feel safe. And this is where stuff like where the passport bros come in and say, look, I'm a decent guy. I'm not like a bad guy, but I can't find a woman who still has, a girly essence to her, if that makes sense. So I think where all this comes in is that women are choosing to no longer be a muse. And I think there's good and there's bad in that. So we're going to get to like my own opinion towards the end of the video. But I wanted to give you guys more information on what these muses are, because quite often I feel that sometimes women just genuinely do not understand how magnetic and how magical our presence is to men, And like, even if they're gay, you ever seen the way gay guys act when a girl has like all her stuff together and stuff like that? They love it. So I want us to be aware of our power and our influence and the way we are able to inspire men to go create and decide whether we want to do that or not. And if we do, how to stay in control. Because when it comes to muses, a lot of the times they're taken advantage of. I know that when it comes to rappers, they'll have all these girls, these video vixens in their music videos and use their feminine essence to make themselves look bigger and then, be rude to those women just because they're sex workers. I know even when it comes to a lot of famous artists that have certain muses, as soon as that piece is done and they're on to the next, art studio with the next muse, you don't get any residuals from that. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of the time, women have decided to not give all of ourselves, And I do think that that is a way to stay safe. But I also feel like there's ways where, when it comes to creativity, you need both the masculine and the feminine to create. And a lot of women feel stuck in certain ways. Like, I know for us girls, especially like women of color nowadays, we really are doing good financially. We're really good with our businesses. We're really good with keeping our shit together. But we always feel like something's missing. You know what I mean? So I feel like a lot of that nowadays is not necessarily men. You can decenter men and still be, a source of divine femininity. But at the same time, we do have to live with them. We do have to coexist with them. And saying, you hate men all the time and stuff like that, like literally saying me too, but it doesn't really get us anywhere. We have to coexist with them. And I think being a muse is the perfect way to put yourself on a pedestal, but also not let yourself be taken advantage of at the same time. So we're going to get into some different artists in history that have had muses, and I'm going to give you guys my personal opinion on the end if you are willing to do something like this and the pros and cons of being a muse. It was said that the muses originated as whispers in the ears of those who invoked them, like an incantation that possesses the artist into carrying out the will of some unnameable personified truth. Being a muse is a demeanor, not an aesthetic. It is something that possesses you, something that you embody, yet it is fleeting and flickering in and out of reach, gaining your attention and curiosity, whilst willingly or unwillingly being unaware or ignorant to the observer. Now, when I think of a muse, I think of someone who is completely, it's more than just being yourself, it's more than just standing out. It's almost like you're watching someone on their way out the door. That attentiveness you get when you hear someone grab their keys and unlock the door, and you can just feel like them being, on the verge of walking out and going somewhere else. It's almost like that. Sometimes I know a lot of people's muses can be really dark, and a muse can be like a train wreck, or a muse can simply just be something that looks like it's not supposed to be there. Like someone that looks like they've lived life 100 times and are still finding new ways to make it interesting. Um, I've definitely experienced many muses throughout my life. I'm a writer and I do some painting, and I like to do poetry as well. So sometimes I could just walk past someone and they could inspire me to do a poem. But when it comes to a muse, it's something completely different. It's almost like a puzzle that you almost can't stop thinking about until you figure out all the pieces. And people are very complicated, so sometimes you never get there. But I've noticed if artists that like to paint and stuff like that, they sometimes get romantically involved with their muses in order to understand them to a greater depth, to actively portray not necessarily them, because at the end of the day, when you're a muse, people are viewing you through their own lens, through their own filter. So it's more so a likeness of you than you per se, if that makes sense. And sometimes it can be flattering being a muse, and sometimes it can just be downright creepy, especially if you don't like the medium of art that this person is using to portray you. I've definitely been I've definitely been asked to be a muse, like more formally, but I've had people try to capture my essence and siphon my energy for their own art or for their own points and stuff like that. You guys know I like to study stuff and I like to do a lot of research, and some people will like shit in my face when it comes to my research and then will take my ideas as if they're their own. And I've definitely been the muse of some people, and I didn't even know it. So, but I definitely have had people formally ask me to be their muse, which I much more appreciate. I actually recently had someone asked me. The first couple of times he asked me, I actually declined because he likes to paint people in the nude, and it just sounded really sleazy. Like, you know, like if you're a pretty girl, you know that there's always like some guy saying like, oh, you should be a model, take my card, I do pictures, come here and let me take pictures of you and stuff like that. So I really just avoid stuff like that, but I actually looked at some of his work and it's so beautiful, and I love the way he portrays women. And he had asked me again to be a part of his project, and he said that he wanted to be able to capture women of color because most of the time the art that sells is usually like white women, and he wanted to do something, you know, big, something next level, and he really wanted to like use my essence. So I was just like happy that he asked me instead of just painting me and stuff like that. So I definitely gave him some pictures that I like and angles that I like, and he's working on the painting right now. I'll try to show you guys some pictures if I can remember to edit this part. But yeah, so it actually does work out really well when it's consensual and you feel like you're getting something from it. But I've noticed with a lot of men, they want to harvest and siphon feminine energy and deplete you and leave you with nothing. And then when you become, you know, the bitter Betty or something, then they'll say, oh, look, see, this is why I didn't want to be with you. You're this, you're that. You know what I mean? So this can be a lot of different ways. Dating beneath your means when it comes to a guy, like not practicing hypergamy, or just like, you know, let's say you did practice hypergamy and you're married to a guy and you gave him a baby and you gave him the white picket fence and the housewife, and he gets this, you know, this raise and this promotion at his job. Because most men that do something in life, you need something to lose. No one's going to make a thousand $100,000 deal with you or $1 million deal with you if you don't have a family, if you're not a family man. You know what I mean? There's never been a president that didn't have a first lady. You get what I'm saying? If you want to be a certain type of man, you have to have a certain type of feminine essence attached to you. That's just the way that it is. So a lot of times men will use all the feminine energy and will leave the woman with nothing. And that's why I feel like a lot of women have been being more conservative with their feminine energy. And there's some women that are, you know, don't even know how to. I think we're all naturally feminine in our own ways, but I feel like a lot of us are stunted at girlhood, and we never even found ways to be captivated by our own divine feminine essence and stuff like that. So I do want to get into different ways to activate your own feminine essence and to become your own muse, and how to have a healthy relationship with men that are going to admire you anyway, so you might as well at least get something from it. You know what I mean? Because accepting pretty privilege is really, I'm not going to say it's hard, because I know there are a lot of like girls out there, like femcels and stuff, that feel like, oh, I want to go on a date, I want to do this. But what comes with this, it can be very draining and it can be overwhelming and it can make you feel objectified and not like a human being. So you don't want someone to objectify you just because they're making you a part of their art and stuff like that. So you just want to make sure that you're comfortable with the boundaries that you've set for yourself. Because the thing with the muses, when it comes to the eyes of the artist, it's almost like they're preparing a meal, and they're getting, you know, this part of you, that part. It kind of reminds me of like Jeepers Creepers, how like whatever he is missing, he'll find someone and take that. Like, let's say if his eyesight is going bad, he'll find someone with beautiful eyes and then put their eyes in his eyes, you know, like Jeepers Creepers. So it's kind of like preparing a meal when an artist is using a muse to reflect, you know, his own personal worldviews, and using her as like a almost like a medium to express his art. I've noticed that sometimes women, or even males that were considered muses, they will end up having this disdain towards the artist for the way that they portrayed them or the way that they perceive them, and almost angry at them for capturing a part of, like, their soul, a part of their essence, and making it immortalized. Not everybody really wants that. Some people want to be able to grow beyond something. And if you're known as, it kind of reminds me of like Superhead, and I know that she was like a video vixen and stuff, but she was the muse to Lil Wayne and a lot of other people. And it kind of reminds me how their music, every time someone plays that, they get a royalty, but she doesn't get anything. And when she comes out and writes a book about something, people are mad at her. Well, that's her experience. So a lot of times muses can feel like scorned by the way that they were portrayed, and feel used up, because at this point the artist is on to the next muse, that the next new hot young thing that provokes him. So a lot of muses end up not really messing with the artist after something like that. But there's definitely ways to protect yourself and protect your image. So, as we went over at the start of this video, there are many different muses. Therefore, there are infinite ways to ignite this fire in you and become a muse yourself. So, words that I find that remind me of some of my favorite muses are otherworldly, a sense of wonderlust, self-possessed, innocent and childlike, yet seem to know more than what they should, or at least they appear to be in on some type of joke or secret that you're just not quite yet unaware of. Something that just makes you want to know more about them, if that makes sense. Um, or maybe someone who embodies chaos and unruliness, unable to blend in, forced to stand out, forced to be noticed, observed, studied, and unraveled to its rawest form like a cat with a yarn ball. I find that if you've ever seen those movies where the popular person or the pretty girl is moving in slow motion, it's not because this person is actually walking super slow. It's because the way that they're being perceived is so in awe, so in amazement, that the person has to slow down time just to take it all in. And to have that type of air about yourself, you have to really let go, and you have to really be present in the moment. And I haven't always really been good at this, to be honest. But I've definitely met women in my life where they're just so poised, and there's something about them where they never seem like they're in a rush. They're always moving slow. They always speak calm, and they don't really let things stress them out. And when you're like really divine when it comes to your femininity, it's not just something to attract men. Animals love it. Children love it. Old people love it. You know what I mean? Just little things like that. They even say that sick people can tell, like when someone like was in a coma, they could tell which nurse they had that day based off how they felt, based off the love and care that that person was radiating off to them. So it's really something that you have to embody if you choose to become a muse yourself. But another thing that I wanted to speak on is, what does it take to actually become a muse, and is it worth it? So, what does it take to become a muse? Honestly, nothing at all. It's almost like, what provoked you to bite the apple? What could drive a person to madness and obsession just by simply existing? Basically, when you step into your divinity, it's impossible for you to go unnoticed. And those that choose to look hard enough will be able to experience your essence in the most potent way. And this basically means allowing yourself to be kind of like an object, ready for mass production and consumption, while simultaneously projecting your own power to filter yourself, never allowing total satisfaction, failing always leaving room for ambiguity and mystery. So now that we know who the original muses were and how they became and how to become a muse, what you're probably wondering now is it worth it? Well, it's really all up to your own personal boundaries and how far you want to go. I know that some women will pose in suggestive ways for like painting classes and stuff like that, but maybe they're like anonymous when it comes to the face or something like that. Kind of like those old fashioned statues where there were like no heads or like arms or something. You would only see like the body or something like that. Or I know some people, it's not even necessarily their looks, it's simply their likeness, and they'll use someone's likeness or someone's personality as the base for a character in a book. So there's different ways where someone doesn't have to, rip off your entire personality for money. They can just be inspired by you in a way that respects your boundaries and stuff like that. But immortality does sound like a pretty good deal if you decide to lend yourself to an artist or an author or something like that. If they choose to capture your essence in a way that flatters you, that will live on forever as long as their art does. So it's a good deal. But it's also not the best thing because sometimes you feel like, again, that this person is depleting your energy. And a lot of the times when it comes to muses, it's not just that someone likes you or they think you're so captivating, it's that you have something going on in your life right now that's almost like it's like something you can't stop watching. Like I think I related it to a cat with a ball of yarn, and it's interesting watching it unravel. But once it's done, it's done. And a lot of muses can feel upset about that. They can feel like they were used or something. So you just want to understand that life is finite, but the energy that you create is forever. So you want to make sure that your energy is not being pulled on, and that your boundaries within your own life and your own perspectives are being respected, of course. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I just wanted to do something more light-hearted and more like feminine based, if that makes sense, and just ways to like activate your divine feminine. I wouldn't say that I try to make myself a muse or anything, but I find that when I'm having moments in my life where I'm on the brink of something, or maybe I decided to do something big in my life, just anything where I feel like I'm stepping into like a new version of myself. I do this a lot towards the end of the year. I try to like have all my shit together, and just so that I'm going into the new year with a clear mind and my intentions for the next year. And I evaluate the previous year that I just had and just wonder like, what can I do better next time? So I find that when I'm in these type of mindsets, I do attract a lot of like artists and stuff like that. Oh, and I'm also going to show you guys the pictures of, well, it's like a painting and stuff of someone that wanted me to be their muse on a project that they were working on. So this is like a sneak peek into how I look a little bit. But I'm going to have to censor it, I think, because it's like nude. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want any other videos like this, let me know. And I'm going to be doing more videos on like fashion and aesthetics and just stuff like that. Just different ways to find your own self, that makes sense, because I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to like the internet nowadays, there's so many different aesthetics and no one's really like sticking to anything. And I think a true aesthetic is you know what I mean? You don't have to wear the same color or the same fabrics or the same type of clothes every day, but when you have your own sense of style, your own personal signature, people just get it. And it's way easier to shop for clothes that way and figure out what makeup and hairstyles work for you depending on what mood you're in that way. And it's also a way, like me personally, when it comes to like spiritual stuff, I like to, even not even spiritual sometimes, like let's say like if I'm going out or something and I want to provoke a certain energy, I'll just like channel that person. And this doesn't mean being like them or talking like them or anything like that. It just means like picking up on that vibe. Like if you want to come off, let's say you're going somewhere where it's like business and it's going to be like really classy people, and you want to come off cute but still like you have your shit together, just do what Beyonce would do. Just try to come off diplomatic but still down to earth and fun. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean by like channeling certain things. It can help you figure out your own energetic signature and how you want to show up in the world and how you want people to perceive you. So thank you again and have a beautiful day.